but after the show, and this is really, really what turned me off to Rick, other than the fact that, he's lying about who he was. He was talking crap about Ryan. Ryan was he was like, we were all at like IHOP after the show. He's like, I don't understand why he didn't come back to help break down. And we're going, he's in the emergency room, like you idiot. And then turns out Rick was screwing everybody over on pay and all this kind of stuff too. So, but so after that, Ryan decided that he was going to buy a ring and set it up at his father's property outside of Temple in this shop that he had built. So he bought a 16 by 16 foot ring from a High Spots, and he ended up contacting me through his Facebook page, or not his Facebook page, his MySpace page. This is how far back this is, through MySpace. And he decided that he was going to start his own promotion, and with some help from some folks down in San Antonio that were kind of helping him train a little bit. So there was Ray the Voice, Ray Akins is his name. He was an announcer down there, and he announced at Shawn Michaels promotion. He was one of the announcers there, and he'd been around for a while. So he helped us out, got us hooked up with some folks down in San Antonio. And that's kind of what led us to starting to work for River City Wrestling, RCW. And that's where I first met Hernandez. So we'll get to that. But so we were, we were training probably 4 or 5 days a week out there in Temple. And so I started with them, and we had our very first show. So, the company was called New School Federation, NSF. And had our first show May 3rd, 2008. And I wrestled a guy named Bulldozer. In my first match, I was the Tennessee Gentleman, Mark McCullough. Terrible, terrible gimmick.
Wait.
Yeah, that was my first wrestling
gimmick. Your name was the Tennessee Gentleman, Mark McCullough?
The Tennessee Gentleman, Mark McCullough.
Who thought of that?
I did. So McCullough is a family name on my grandfather's side. So I was like, okay, cool, do that. And I was thinking of the whole, the alliteration thing sounds pretty cool because it'd be Mark McCullough, so double M's. And I love Jack Daniels, so Tennessee Gentleman. Jack Daniels is Tennessee whiskey. I'll come to the ring with a bottle of Jack. And it was this terrible, terrible gimmick, terrible, stupid gimmick. It didn't make any sense. And, I was, the whole idea was I wanted to be almost like a riverboat gambler. That's what I had in my head. But never put what I had on paper to reality. So instead, I was just wearing black slacks and a white dress shirt with suspenders, and I'm looking like Amish roadblock without the beard. Big fat guy with dress shirt and suspenders. So had my first match with Dozer. Of course, he beats me in the first match, and then we keep training, and I think my third or fourth match we ended up getting booked in San Antonio for TNT, which was Tito Sanchez was the guy that promotes that show. He still promotes it. I think he's currently recovering from cancer, I believe, or he still may be fighting it. I saw him a few months back, and he's had some health issues here recently, so keeping him in my thoughts, of course, because Tito's always been a nice guy. But had the hardest ring I've ever been in. Just it was like bumping on concrete, man. But that kind of got us down there to San Antonio, and we had a really good crew there in Temple, and folks that we had some raw talent that just really needed to be tapped into. So it was me, it was Ryan Genesis, it was Just Willie. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but really
Just
athletic.
Willie?
Just Willie. His real name is Zach Schaefer. He'd wrestled, I think, as Stacy Slade a little later on. Wrestled for Inspire Pro and ACW and places like that. So, but really athletic, bigger guy. So he was really talented. It was another Dozer, of course. He he was fairly talented, but it was still just didn't have the experience that everyone needed. But it was really the us three that kind of stood out. Me, Ryan, and Willie. So we started getting booked in San Antonio. Well, we went down there for a tryout, and we had to wrestle in front of Sean. And that's when he came up with the Bubba Dumplings character for me, because he was like, I don't understand.
God.
Like, I don't understand the Tennessee Junior. That doesn't make sense. So he gives me a fucking hillbilly gimmick, basically. Pardon my language. And I am not a hillbilly. Like, I'm pretty country, I guess. But like, I enjoy country music, but I'm not a get her done type guy. And I guess that's what he saw in me. And he said, yeah, you wear overalls and all this kind of stuff, and you do barefoot and all this kind of crap. And I was like, well, if I want to work down here, I guess I got to do it. So I started getting the overalls and all this kind of stuff, and debuted down there in San Antonio for RCW, did a body slam challenge, basically. And so they would do a raffle. Someone would win the raffle and come in there and try to body slam me. So if they can body slam me, they win $500 or whatever it was. But that's all they were having me do. And I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like it because it wasn't me. Just made no sense. And I looked at it as like, if I don't take this seriously, no one else is going to take it seriously, because it's a comedy gimmick. And you're never going to see something like that on the top of a card somewhere, and to be taken seriously anyway. So I was just against it. And finally I just had enough, and told Sean, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And that means I don't get booked down in San Antonio or Corpus or wherever it was that he was associated with at the time. So be it. I'll just wrestle in Temple, and then I'll figure it out from there. And so he got in my face at a show in Corpus, like after the show, and he was like, "Oh, you're a fat piece of shit who doesn't know how to work." And I'm like, "I've been in the business for 4 months, yeah. So no one knows how to work when they've been in the business that long, right? So you're telling me something I don't fucking know already, But he's calling me a fat piece of shit that can't work. And he was like, well, if this was 5 years ago, I'd wipe the floor with your ass. And at the time he was on TV, And I'm like, okay, cool, man. Sorry. And then that was like, that solidified it for me. I'm not going to do this stupid gimmick anymore. So we called Ray, who's the one that got us booked down in San Antonio originally. And we told him, hey, man, I'm not doing it. And he's like, okay, well, we need to at least kill the gimmick because nobody's body slammed you. And I said, fine, we'll finish it off. And so we did the body slam gimmick, and the guy that finally came out and body slammed me was Lance Hoyt.
Nice.
And he was in between leaving TNA and going to FCW at the time, because he was going to go through WWE's developmental. And so he was just in between that time. He came through and worked in San Antonio, and he was the guy that put Bubba Dumplings out, right? So, but didn't want to do it down there anymore. But then I decided, I go, well, screw that, man. I can make some money with this thing if we do it right. And we, so I continued to do the Bubba thing in Temple, and was doing the body slam challenge up there, but I was actually making money doing it because we weren't selling raffle tickets. We were selling $5 a pop. Come do it during intermission. I'd leave $120, $130 because people were coming in to try to body slam me. So Chase is the one who kind of really, I'm not saying put it in my head because I already knew, but he was really the one that kind of reinforced the idea that no one's ever going to take this particular gimmick seriously. So we figured a way out to turn me or to kill the gimmick, basically, and I re-debuted as Killer Brent McKenzie, and I'd always been a fan of Killer Tim Brooks, so I thought it was pretty kind of cool to take that name and run with it. And sure enough, that's started getting some more bookings under that particular moniker, and so I was being taken more seriously and getting better bookings because of it. So ended up Ryan ended up putting the title on me down there at NSF, which became NWA 360, which is 360 Pro Wrestling, and that's where the 360 Championship came from, which is now a part of Lions Pride.
Okay, right. I actually want to talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that all came from NSF.
Yes.
360 Pro Wrestling, NWA 360. So what happened with the name change of that? Who decided, hey, let's change it to 360, whatever?
So Ryan Genesis had struck a deal with the NWA, which was at the time Tony Brooklyn and Bruce Stark. And he says, I think it's time to change the name. He's originally from the Seattle area. So in the area code up there is 360. And he says it'll be kind of a paying tribute to where he's from and all that kind of stuff. So we became NWA 360. And then obviously everything went to the wayside with the NWA, that particular version of the NWA. And Ryan ended up getting out, and then Aaron Presley and I took over 360. And we ran a few shows, ran some pretty big shows in the Temple area, and eventually, life gets in the way of a lot of stuff. I ended up moving up to the DFW area. Aaron was busy doing what he was doing at the time, and we just didn't have the time or the means to continually run a successful show because it takes money,
Yeah.
And so we could put that on the back burner, and then Carson had to retire from wrestling, and then he, was starting up Lions Pride Sports, and then Aaron had the 360 title, of course. So they decided to make that a secondary title for Lions Pride Sports, and reintroduce that belt. And I got to hold it there at Lions Pride, which was pretty cool. So
yeah,
because I helped design that title.
Yeah.
But and they're doing what they're doing down there with it. So that's pretty cool that it's still alive. After almost. So we started NSF in 2008, and then got the title. I think that title was made in 2014. So it's cool to still see it active.
Right. Who do you know the current champion is? My mind's drawing a blank.
Mike Dell is the 360 champion.
Former guest of the show, Mike Dell.
Yeah, good job.
That? Yeah, and, it's kind of ironic because it's an unreleased episode. Maybe I'll release it for bonus content or whatever. But I did an interview with Aaron. It was the night after he did that elbow drop off of that 14-foot ladder.
That crazy SOB.
It was the night after, or day after. And dude, Aaron wasn't all there. Dude,
I'm sure he wasn't.
I don't know what prescriptions he was taking or what he was consuming. He was like, "What's up, bro?" It was hilarious. Wow. But he told me a brief history of NWA 360, which was yeah, this guy, he knew the NWA. We're come on, dude.
Well, there was a lot of stuff with the NWA, man, that we wanted better representation, and couldn't get it. Tony had come down one time, and that's when we made the debut and, unveiled that we were going to be a part of the NWA. He came down once. Never could get Bruce to show up. Because he was always, I just got out of town, or I just got in town from being out of town, and blah, 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 blah. You're the president of the company, and you hadn't even been to the show. And really, we were booking some really good talent, in the Texas area. So we had folks we had Ryan, Scott Summers, we had James Claxton, Carson, we had Ricky Starks, Barrett Brown, Andy Dalton, some Rudy Russo, some really good people, and we couldn't get recognition from the NWA, even though we were paying them money to be a part of the NWA, and I think that's a lot of the issues that came up with the NWA at that time. It was really more of a money grab for the folks who were in charge, rather than actually supporting the wrestling that was representing the NWA. So